During the campaign, Donald Trump took anti-media animus to a whole new level, calling out specific reporters with personal taunts. At this point, the Trump administration could easily surpass Richard Nixon's as the most openly hostile to the press, if it hasn't already. But now some are suggesting it's time to stop harping about it. After the November election, Donald Trump quickly dashed any hopes that he'd take a more presidential tone with the media.
The press, honestly, is out of control. The level of dishonesty is out of control.
And that's led to routine flare-ups between reporters and the White House.
And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
Well, I disagree completely. First of all, I think if anything has been inflamed, it's the dishonesty that often takes place by the news media.
But the antagonism hit new lows following Trump's nasty Twitter tirade against MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski, once again putting the media in the middle of the story.
The president this morning apparently unhappy with criticisms being made about him on the MSNBC show Morning Joe.
Now some journalists are starting to think the media might be playing into Trump's hands. Columbia Journalism Review editor Kyle Pope says, stop treating Trump's war with the press as if it's the most important thing happening in this country. It's not. He says covering every anti-media rant has become counterproductive and even beneficial to the president, and is turning reporters into photo op foils for the White House. Perhaps Trump himself has some unintended advice for reporters.
We won and they lost. The fact is, the press has destroyed themselves because they went too far. Instead of being subtle and smart, they used the hatchet.
Subtle and smart, something that's in short supply in Washington these days. I should clarify for viewers who haven't read it that Kyle Pope does not say that when the president goes off on the press, which he does on a daily basis pretty much, that it's not significant and doesn't tell us something about his character. But he says it's bringing us no new information and that it's not as important to the country as a whole as it is to us. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I do. And in fact, Josh Marshall of Talking Points Memo wrote a very good piece recently that is a little bit along the same lines as Kyle Pope's piece. And the point that Marshall makes is that, for the most part, the media have been tougher and less willing to normalize Trump's transgressive behavior than we might have thought they would be. And that's good. But the fact is, they nevertheless keep playing into the president's hands by saying, oh, you're going to make it about us? Okay, it is about us. And no, it's not about us. And I mean, it should be noted, but then the media need to move on and cover the news of the day in ways that they're not, because they're so obsessed with the president.
I don't know if it's so much obsession as, it truly is genuine shock. Now, he suggests in his piece it's not shocking anymore. Maybe it's not. But for me to read a piece from the President of the United States about Mika Brzezinski's bleeding from a facelift, alleged facelift, which she says she never had, I'm sorry, that's shocking. So I guess as he keeps ratcheting up the Twitter bar, then at some point you have to cover it. I have a different feeling about the White House correspondence and that tug of war. I think what's happening there is not a good scene, but I think that we can do a better job of figuring out how to cover those issues than going back and forth and playing into their hands in that scenario. Now, how that comes together, I don't know.
I'm glad you brought us back to the Brzezinski tweet, because there is something strange, as some commentators have noted. There was a great piece I read, I can't remember who wrote it, for The Atlantic, I think, talking about his fascination with blood when it comes to women.
And women.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
right,
women specifically. So you're right. To say that that's just about the press is probably not quite accurate, Joanna.
Well, but I don't know if I agree that it's shocking at this point. I mean, this is a strange thing to have to say, but there is nothing unusual at this moment in time with some offensive, obnoxious, over-the-line tweet coming from the President of the United States. This is something we have known about him since well before he was elected. It did not stop him from being elected. I mean, it's kind of funny. He puts out the tweet, and then there are a million news stories about it, and then you see on Twitter these sort of wishful tweets. Now's the time. He's got to step down and resign. He's gone too far. Nothing like that is going to happen. He is who he is. He's in office in part because of who he is. There's nothing newsworthy about that.
I just want to say, first off, I think it's great we have this space on Beat the Press to address whether the media is talking too much.
But
beyond that,
it's like an onion, Josh. Layers within layers.
I do feel that the Morning Joe Mika Brzezinski tweets were of a level that is far above fake news, hashtag, the media is making stuff up. We've seen a lot of that from Trump. I do think that the personal nature of this attack was new ground. In the same way that I think that this week Trump's negative statements about press freedom in Poland, where the leadership there, government there, is happy to oppress press freedom, is noteworthy in a different way. All that said, I kind of think that it's true that the press being so focused on media issues hurts, say, Democrats. There's lots of polling that shows that Democrats will be doing a lot better and Trump will be doing a lot worse if there was as much discussion about health care, let's say, than his obsession with the media. But the media is being rope-a-dope. They are being pulled into a fight that they cannot win. If there's one thing that the Republican base, the people who support Donald Trump, are becoming fractured over time, there's lots of evidence over that, but they are united in thinking that the media elites in New York and Washington are the enemy. So this is putting him in a position where he is doing well. And, whatever you say about Donald Trump, he is, a lot of times at least, a smart tactician when it comes to media and publicity. He's very good at that. And he's doing this in a very knowledgeable way. I think the media needs to understand that that's happening and stop being so damn self-obsessed.